Jane Welsh here with the Vancouver Ballet Society's series, Stories from Our Archive, celebrating our 75th anniversary. Today I'm going to talk about Vancouver dance artist Lennie Gibson. Unlike other artists that I've profiled, Lennie wasn't groomed by a star maker. Lennie's influences were family, environment, and popular entertainment. Training was peripheral. He put himself together as an artist. Born in 1926 to an African-American family who migrated to Alberta from Oklahoma in 1911. He moved to Vancouver in 1932 with his family and his siblings. At 5, he was performing tap dance at the Elks Club and anywhere else he could get a gig. At 9, 10, he was local fill for the big American touring acts like Eddie Cantor and Blackstone the Magician. By 14, nobody seemed to ask about age. He was doing the floor show at the Mandarin Gardens Cabaret on Pender Street. Lennie credits his dance chops to watching Gene Kelly and Sammy Davis Jr. films. His path to stardom was familiar to many young artists today, blasting directly into showbiz. No formal training until he was 19. 3 years younger than Robert Lindgren, Lennie missed the war. He came of age for the after party. Imagine, after years of deprivation and discipline, the massive release of libidinous energy. Everyone wanted to dance. Tango, rumba, Afro-Cuban, hot jazz, cool jazz, jazz. And there was Lennie, 20 years age, rhythm incarnate, cha-cha, samba, flamenco, jive. He personified the zeitgeist. In the midst of this, he meets Myra McBurney, the Royal Academy of Dance lady sent from London. She encourages him to pursue a professional career. One wonders what she meant. By this time, Lennie had been performing for 15 years, but he wasn't offended and he started to train. He was a natural in ballet. The next season, a New York dance company in town asked him to step in and replace a dancer who was delayed at the border. The artistic director, Catherine Dunham, offered him a scholarship to her school in New York. Lennie went to New York and studied for a year, but was yanked back to Canada by a draft notice. No evidence that he was ever called up. What a waste. By 1949, he was teaching for Myra McBurney. His mother opened a cabaret that same year, and he and his siblings did the floor show, Afro-Cuban, jazz, tap, and so on. He also founded the Negro Workshop Dance Group. Len could have thought he could build a career in Vancouver. Live entertainment was hot, television had arrived, new Canadian networks needed content. He wrote and choreographed the first musical variety TV program produced in Vancouver. It was called Bambula, but only 3 episodes were shot. The interracial cast was deemed too risky by sponsors. Typical setbacks for artists of colour, and often why they left, and still do. Lennie Gibson was as good as any at negotiating racism, and he worked the gig economy better than many do today. As dancer, choreographer, producer, and educator, he worked the commercial entertainment, broadcasting, education, and the non-profit art sector. In 1953, Myra McBurney and Heino Hayden founded the British Columbia Ballet, and they performed Gershwin's Preludes, choreographed by Lennie, at the Canadian Ballet Festival. Lennie did Theatre Under the Stars, TATS, his brother's nightclub, Izzy's, The Cave, and CBC. Paula Ross, who trained with him, cites him as an influence on the scene and a terrific partner. Lennie taught countless masterclasses and choreographed many showcases for Vancouver Ballet Society, sometimes dancing himself. But his group didn't root, and he didn't get a television show. He did a lot, but it wasn't enough. In 1959, at age 33, Lennie went to Europe. He performed for 10 years, solo at nightclubs and military bases. He returned to Canada in 1969 and opened his own studio and formed a group, the Lennie Gibson Dance Ensemble, in Toronto. He also taught at Sheridan College and the Yorkville Performing Arts Studio, though he returned to Vancouver for shows. Many people in the 70s remember him performing at Buddy White's Cabin Inn on Main Street. Lennie had a dignity about him that he could throw aside and shout, "Don't let the Broadway witches kick higher than you." He mentored many artists, touching them with his professionalism and his ability and his formidable skills. He enriched Vancouver by broadening our aesthetics and providing a model of diversity, though Vancouver didn't reciprocate as it might have, a shelf load of civic and commercial entertainment awards notwithstanding. In 1995, he returned to Vancouver. In his 70s, Lennie travelled to Africa to study African dance. Today, he is honoured as the progenitor of African-Canadian choreography. After his death, a student came across another student at an adult dance class, and they both went to the bar and began Lennie's signature warm-up, a dance legend living on in moving bodies. Lennie Gibson died in Vancouver in 2008 at the age of 82. I'm Jane Welsh for the Vancouver Ballet Society. Thank you for watching.